Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you everything you think you know about judging character is wrong? That all those gut feelings and first impressions are just noise. The truth is, seeing someone's true nature comes down to just two things, and most people miss them completely. We've all been burned by trusting the wrong person. The co-worker who smiles to your face but stabs you in the back. The friend who's loyal when life's easy but disappears when things get hard. But here's the problem. We judge people based on what they say, not what they do. Today we're cutting through the illusions. No fluff, no psychology jargon, just two undeniable signs that reveal who someone really is. And once you see them, you'll never be fooled again. The first is how they handle power. Power is the ultimate truth serum. Give someone just a little taste of it, whether it's authority, money, or even temporary influence, and you'll see who they really are, not who they pretend to be in front of us. Not the version they carefully craft for social approval, but the raw, unfiltered self that emerges when they believe no one is watching. Think about it. That quiet co-worker who never says much in meetings. What happens when they get promoted? Do they suddenly start micromanaging, throwing their weight around, relishing the chance to finally be in control? Or do they lead with humility, using their new position to lift others up rather than push them down? Or consider the friend who borrows money. At first they're grateful, full of promises to pay you back as soon as they can. But then time passes. They stop mentioning it. When you bring it up, they act like you're the one being unreasonable. That's not forgetfulness. That's a test of how much they can take before you call them out. Power doesn't change people, it reveals them. You see this everywhere in big ways and small. The person who's polite to your face but talks down the customer service worker. The family member who's generous when others are watching but tight-fisted in private. The leader who preaches fairness but plays favorites behind closed doors. The moment someone feels untouchable, even for a second, their real character steps forward. So how do you use this? Simple. Watch what happens when someone gets a little control. Even something as small as being put in charge of a group project or holding onto money that isn't theirs. Do they handle it with respect, or do they let it go to their head? The answer tells you everything. The second test, how they treat those who can't help. Anyone can turn on the charm when they need something. The real test isn't how someone treats their boss, their wealthy relative, or the person who can advance their career. The real test is how they treat the people who can do nothing for them, the waiter who gets their order wrong, the janitor who's just doing their job, the stranger who asks for directions, the cashier who's moving too slowly. These are the moments that don't matter, which is exactly why they matter so much. Kindness when there's nothing to gain isn't just politeness. It's a reflection of someone's deepest values. You've seen it before. The person who's all smiles in a room full of important people but snaps at the Uber driver for taking a wrong turn. The one who donates to charity for the Instagram post but ignores the homeless person on their way to work. The friend who's supportive when you're winning but disappears when you're struggling. These aren't coincidences, they're patterns. True character isn't about grand gestures or public displays. It's a respect given to those who don't demand it. It's decency without an audience. So pay attention not to how someone treats you, but how they treat the people they don't need to treat well. That's where you'll find the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Why words mean nothing? The liar's paradox. There's a strange thing that happens when people try too hard to convince you of who they are. The more someone insists they're honest, the less you should believe them. The louder they proclaim their loyalty, the quicker you should question it. Because here's the truth. No one wants to admit. Real character doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. Think about the last time someone told you, "I'm the most trustworthy person you'll ever meet." Did you actually feel more trust toward them, or did something in your gut hesitate? That hesitation is your instinct recognizing a fundamental rule of human nature. People who are truly trustworthy don't spend time convincing you of it. They just are. This is what happens when words and actions don't match. The coworker who says, "I always have your back," but disappears when a project goes wrong. The friend who claims, "I'm so generous," but keeps track of every favor they've ever done for you. The partner who says, "I would never lie to you," while carefully omitting the truth. Words are easy. Anyone can say them. But behavior, that's where the truth lives. Real integrity is quiet. It's the neighbor who shovels your driveway before you wake up and never mentions. The colleague who notices a mistake in your report, fixes it before the meeting, and doesn't wait for your gratitude. The friend who listens without interrupting, helps without being asked, and never holds it over your head afterward. These people don't need to tell you who they are. They show you. And that's the key. The moment someone feels the need to declare their goodness, it's usually because they're trying to cover for its absence. A truly honest person doesn't walk around saying, "I'm honest." They just tell the truth, even when it's hard. A genuinely loyal person doesn't make promises. They're just there consistently without fanfare. So what do you do with this? Stop listening to claims. Stop being moved by declarations. Instead, watch for the small unspoken thing, the way someone acts when they think no one's paying attention, the choices they make when there's nothing to gain. That's where you'll find the truth, not in their words, but in the silence between them. The flattery trap, the pet trap. Petrum is dangerous, not because he's evil, but because he's so convincing. A person who knows how to make you feel good about yourself can easily make you overlook who they really are. You've met them before. The ones who remember small details about you, your dog's name, your favorite coffee order, and use them to create instant connection. The ones who laugh just a little too hard at your jokes, who always seem to agree with you, who make you feel like the most interesting person in the room. It feels good. That's the problem. Because here's what they don't tell you. Charm isn't kindness. It's a skill. It's a skill. Some people are naturally good at reading others, at figuring out exactly what to say to make people like them. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it becomes dangerous when we mistake it for genuine character. The truth is, anyone can be nice to your face. The real test is how they act when you're not around. Think about the person who's always complimenting you but gossips about others the moment they leave the room. The one who's warm and engaging with you but dismissive toward waitstaff or strangers. The one who makes you feel special but leaves everyone else feeling invisible. That's not kindness, that's strategy. So how do you avoid the trap? Simple. Stop paying so much attention to how someone makes you feel and start noticing how they make others feel. Watch how they treat people who can't do anything for them. Listen to what they say when they think you're not listening. Because real connection isn't about performance. It's about consistency. It's not about making one person feel special. It's about treating everyone with basic decency. The most genuinely kind people aren't always the most charming. They're just the ones who don't turn their humanity on and off depending on who's watching. And that's worth more than flattery ever could be. Comfortable times allow for masks, for carefully constructed images and polite performances. But crisis burns all that away. What remains is the unvarnished truth of who someone really is. Think about the last time your life was truly difficult. Who showed up without being asked? Who disappeared when you needed the most? These weren't accidents, they were revelations. There's the friend who drives across town at 2 a.m. when you call, no questions asked. The coworker who takes on extra work when you're overwhelmed, not for recognition, but because it's the right thing to do. These people don't help because it benefits them. They help because that's simply who they are. Then there's the other side. The partner who turns every shared problem into your fault. The family member who's nowhere to be found when things get hard, but miraculously reappears when the storm passes. These aren't momentary lapses. They're glimpses behind the curtain. Crisis doesn't create character, it exposes it. Money problems show you who's truly generous. Illness shows you who actually cares. Failure shows you who's really in your corner. These moments are gifts, painful but precious, because they show you exactly where people stand. Watch how someone reacts when plans collapse. Do they step up or step back? Do they look for solutions or for someone to blame? Do they share the weight or add to it? Their answers tell you everything. The beautiful part, this works both ways. Your own reactions during tough times are equally revealing. Do you rise to the occasion or crumble under pressure? Do you become more or less of the person you want to be? There's no better test of character than adversity. No better way to see someone's soul than to watch them navigate stormy seas. When the winds howl and the waves crash, that's when the truth comes out. The consistency test. Anyone can have a good day. Anyone can muster kindness when they're well rested, well fed, and everything's going their way. But that's not character. Character is what happens day after day in ordinary moments when no one's watching and no one's keeping score. The person who's patient except when stressed isn't actually patient. The one who's generous when they can afford it isn't truly generous. The friend who's loyal as long as it's convenient isn't loyal at all. These aren't exceptions to their nature, they're demonstrations of it. Real character shows up in patterns, not peaks. It's not about the grand gestures, but the small repeated choices that form the fabric of who someone is. The way they speak to service workers every single time, not just when they're trying to impress someone. The way they keep their word, even when it's inconvenient, not just when it's easy. Watch how someone behaves when they're tired, when they're frustrated, when they're not getting what they want. That's where their true self lives. The person who's kind only when it costs them nothing isn't kind. They're just polite. This is why first impressions are so often wrong. We see someone at their best and mistake it for their norm. Who? But people are who they are most of the time, not who they are on their best behavior. The employee who does great work when the boss is watching but slacks off otherwise isn't a good worker. The partner who's affectionate in public but cold in private isn't loving. The friend who's supportive when life is easy but absent when it's hard isn't reliable. Character isn't a performance, it's a habit. It's not about how someone acts in the spotlight, but how they move through the world when they think no one's paying attention. This is why time is the ultimate test. One moment can be faked, the week can be staged, but months, years, the truth always comes out. The patterns always reveal themselves. So don't judge people by their best days or their worst days. Judge them by their ordinary days. Watch what they do repeatedly, consistently, without thinking. That's who they really are. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The shadow side, what they hide. We all wear masks. Polite society demands it. But beneath the surface, in the quiet corners of our psyche, lives our shadow self. The part we don't show the world. The remarkable thing isn't that we have these hidden aspects, but how persistently they find ways to reveal themselves despite our best efforts to keep them concealed. Watch carefully when people think no one is paying attention. That's when the truth slips out. The co-worker who jokes about being such a when stressed isn't really joking. The friend who constantly makes self-deprecating comments about being lazy or selfish is telling you something important about how they really see themselves. These aren't throwaway lines, they're confessions disguised as humor. The way someone talks about others is particularly revealing. Listen to how they describe people who aren't present. The venom they spit about others often says more about their own unresolved issues than about the people they're criticizing. When someone constantly accuses others of being manipulative or selfish or dishonest, they're usually projecting their own hidden tendencies onto the world. Pay special attention to what people brag about while pretending to dislike. The person who hates drama but always seems to be in the middle of it. The one who claims to despise attention but somehow always ends up being the center of these contradictions aren't coincidences. They're clues pointing directly to the shadow. Money is another area where shadows emerge. Notice how people talk about wealth, about those who have more or less than they do. The bitterness disguised as moral superior. The greed masquerading as practicality. The generosity that comes with invisible strings attached. Financial behavior exposes what people truly value, no matter what virtues they claim to prioritize. Anger is perhaps the most honest emotion. When someone loses their temper, you're seeing a part of them that's normally kept under lock and key. The targets of their rage matter less than the intensity and nature of the reaction itself. Someone who flies into fits over minor inconveniences is showing you how they really feel about the world and their place in it. The shadow also appears in our compulsions. The things we can't seem to stop doing even when we know we should. The gossip that slips out before we can catch. The little white lies we tell for no good reason. The petty jealousies we can't quite suppress. These automatic behaviors are windows into our unvarnished selves. What makes the shadow so dangerous isn't that it exists, but that we refuse to acknowledge it. The person who claims to have no dark side is the one you should watch most carefully. At least those who recognize their shadows are less likely to be blindsided by them. The healthiest people aren't those without shadows, but those who've made peace with them. They know their darker impulses and take responsibility for them. They don't pretend to be perfect, they strive to be aware. This self-knowledge makes them far more trustworthy than those who insist they have nothing to hide. The forgiveness test. Moments of failure are relationship crucible. They reveal the true nature of connections. We thought we understood. When you make a mistake, real or perceived, watch how the people around you respond. Their reactions will tell you everything you need to know about their character. There are 3 types of people when it comes to forgiveness. The first are the lecturers. They seize on your mistake as an opportunity to demonstrate their moral superiority. Their forgiveness comes with strings, usually in the form of repeated reminders of your failing and how magnanimous they're being by not holding it against you. This isn't forgiveness at all, but a form of emotional bookkeeping. The second type are the gossip. They might claim to forgive you to your face, but your mistake becomes part of their conversational currency with others. These are the people who say, I'm not mad at you, while telling everyone else what you did wrong. Their forgiveness is performative, designed more to make them look good than to actually repair anything. Then there's the rarest type, those who help you fix the problem without humiliation. They don't ignore your mistake, but neither do they weaponize it. Their focus is on solutions rather than blame, on moving forward rather than dwelling on what went wrong. This is forgiveness in its purest form, not the absence of consequences but the presence of grace. Watch how people react when you are vulnerable with them. Do they use your confession as ammunition or as an opportunity to connect? Do they meet your honesty with judgment or with understanding? The measure of someone's character isn't how they treat you when you're strong, but how they treat you when you're weak. The same principle applies to how people handle being wronged by others. Those who nurse grudges over minor slights reveal an inability to distinguish between genuine harm and ordinary human imperfection. The person who can't let go of small offenses is usually the one most likely to commit major ones. True forgiveness requires strength. The strength to absorb pain without passing it on. To understand human frailty without excusing harm, to hold people accountable without dehumanizing them. That's why it's such an accurate measure of character. Weak people can hold grudges. Only the strong can truly forgive. This doesn't mean being a doormat. Healthy forgiveness has boundaries. It's possible to forgive someone while still protecting yourself from further harm. The key distinction is whether you are acting out of wisdom or out of resentment. The way someone forgives or doesn't tells you about their relationship with power. Those who forgive easily from a position of strength are very different from those who can't forgive because they feel perpetually victimized. One demonstrates security, the other insecurity. Ultimately, the forgiveness test works both ways. How you respond to others' mistakes reveals just as much about you as their responses reveal about them. The most reliable measure of character is consistency between what we demand from others and what we're willing to give. The time test. Time doesn't just reveal character, it defines it. Anyone can pretend to be kind, loyal, or trustworthy for a day, a week, even a month. But real character is built in the quiet, unremarkable moments that stretch over years. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about what someone does when the spotlight is off. When no one is watching, when there's nothing left to gain, think about the people in your life who've stood the test of time. Not the ones who were there for the celebration, but the ones who showed up during the unglamorous, difficult stretches. The friend who still asks how you're doing months after your loss, long after everyone else has moved on. A coworker who helps you without being asked. Not because it benefits them, but because that's just how they operate. These aren't small things, they're the proof of who someone really is. Time strips away all illusion. The charming new acquaintance who seems so perfect at first, but slowly reveals their selfishness. The partner who was attentive in the beginning, but grows indifferent once the relationship is secure. The fair weather friend who's there when life is easy but disappears the moment you need support. These aren't exceptions, they're the rule. People don't change over time. They become more of who they've always been. The most valuable relationships are the ones that don't need to be forced. They're easy, consistent, unshaken by life's ups and downs. You don't have to question where you stand because their actions have shown you again and again over years. That's the power of time. It doesn't lie. It doesn't rush. It simply unfolds, revealing the truth in its own rhythm. So how do you apply this? Stop rushing to judgment. Let relationships breathe. Watch how people behave. Not just in crisis, but in the mundane, everyday moments that make up most of life. The ones who stay true when nothing is demanding it of them. Those are the ones worth keeping. How to protect yourself without becoming cynical. There's a middle ground between blind trust and total cynicism. And that's where wisdom lives. You don't have to assume everyone is out to deceive you, but you also don't have to take everyone at their word. The key is simple. Let people prove themselves through their actions, not their promises. Start by lowering your expectations not of people, but of your own ability to judge them quickly. First impressions are often wrong. Charisma can be mistaken for kindness, confidence for competence, politeness for integrity. Instead of deciding whether someone is trustworthy, focus on observing. How do they treat others when they think no one is looking? How do they handle power? How do they respond when things don't go their way? These are the questions that matter. Protecting yourself doesn't mean building walls, it means paying attention. The right people will reveal themselves through consistency. They'll show up, they'll follow through. They'll treat you with respect even when it costs them something. The wrong ones will fade away on their own. Not because you rejected them, but because they couldn't maintain the effort required for real connection. This isn't about distrust, it's about patience. Let people earn their place in your life slowly. The ones who are meant to stay will do so without manipulation, without games, without you having to constantly question their motives. They'll just be there reliably likely, and that's the secret. You don't have to filter people out deliberately. Life has its own way of revealing the truth, and it rarely needs your effort to force it. The passing of time, the unfolding of events, and the quiet rhythm of existence do the work for you. Often, the answers you search for are not hidden in what people say, nor in the stories they craft to present themselves, but in what you observe when no one is performing for an audience. Time has a way of stripping away illusions. It shows what is real, what is fleeting, and what was never true in the first place. The truth does not need to declare itself. It doesn't arrive with a grand announcement or loud proclamation. Truth simply is. It stands steady, silent and unwavering while everything else shifts around. Lies may be loud, distractions may be convincing, but the truth remains unshaken, waiting for you to notice it. That is why listening too much can lead you astray. Words can be polished, rehearsed or deceptive. But actions, especially the ones people take when they believe no one is watching, reveal the essence of who they are. So the real task is not to listen more, but to watch more closely. Watch how someone behaves under pressure. Watch how they treat those who cannot offer them anything in return. Watch how they respond to crisis and how they carry themselves in routine. Power and powerlessness both reveal a person's character in ways that speeches never can. A person who is kind when powerless but cruel when powerful has shown you the truth. Someone who acts honorable when praised but bitter when overlooked has revealed who they are at the core. Life itself is a mirror that eventually uncovers all things. If you can be patient, if you can wait without rushing, you will see clearly what is hidden today. Time has an extraordinary way of unveiling. Secrets eventually spill out through patterns of behavior. Pretenses crumble under the weight of consistency. Even silence, when observed long enough, speaks volumes. This is why trust in what you see is so much stronger than trust in what you hear. Seeing is not just about using your eyes. It is about paying attention with awareness, discernment, and wisdom. What you see over time becomes undeniable. Words can be manipulated, but patterns cannot. People may tell you who they want to be, but their habits reveal who they truly are. The takeaway then is simple but profound. Stop relying solely on what you are told. Stop letting noise drown out clarity. Instead, begin watching, waiting, and trusting what reveals itself through action. Once your eyes are open to the truth, you cannot unsee it. Once you witness the reality of power and powerlessness, of integrity or its absence, you will carry that awareness with you forever. Life will do the unveiling. Time will do the proving. Your role is to remain patient, watchful, and wise enough to recognize the truth when it comes into view.